but I'm Kate Whitman, and I'm the Vice President of Public Programs for the Atlanta History Center and the Margaret Mitchell House, and I welcome you here this evening. This Thursday, here at the Margaret Mitchell House, we'll have Karen Abbott, whose new book, Liar, Temptress, Soldier, Spy, is in paperback this week. Also, Garth Stein's new book is in paperback. It actually just comes out tomorrow, so we sort of got the pre-release event tonight. If you could turn phones to vibrate, that would be great. You can tweet and Facebook and all those things, but just so we don't disturb our author. Garth Stein is the author of 4 novels, the internationally best-selling The Art of Racing in the Rain, the PNBA Book Award winner How Evan Broke His Head and Other Secrets, the magically realistic Raven Stole the Moon, and the New York Times best-selling Gothic, historical, coming-of-age novel, which he will talk about tonight, A Southern Light. He lives in Seattle with his family, so it's nice for him to have a nice Southern welcome. Be very nice to him so that he wants to come back. He's co-founder of Seattle 7 Writers, a nonprofit collective of Northwest authors working together to energize the reading and writing public. Please join me in welcoming him to the Margaret Mitchell House.
Okay. Let's do away with that for the time being. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for having me out. I'm just speaking to some guys here in the front row. Is it always this beautiful weather?
Yes, of course.
I know that in Seattle we love to tell people that it rains all the time so that they won't move to Seattle. But in fact, it doesn't rain all the time. But don't tell anybody. I let you in on the secret. Thank you so much for having me. Before we get started, I have some business I got to take care of. It's just minor stuff. Hold on. There we go. And then okay, there you go. Smile.
Yes,
all right. Y'all are going to be on Facebook later on tonight.
All right.
Friend me, follow me, like me. That's
hotel room shots. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So you follow me on Twitter. Yes, on Twitter, I've been posting. Whenever I get to a new hotel, I take a picture out the window and I say, call it Garth's Hotel Window. So you can see we're up to 51. Today was my 51st hotel for publicizing A Southern Light. So I've been around for a while with this. But it's a great deal of fun, and I get to see all sorts of wonderful places around the country, which is it's good. It's always good to see how other people live. You form ideas in your head, and then you don't really know because you read things and you see things on TV and stuff. But you have to be in a city to understand how people are. So you should all, if you can, please travel the country as I have been able to do. Second item of business. This is an iPad. It was invented by Steve Jobs. It's intuitive. You just swipe things. You touch it, and there's a picture. This is a picture of me climbing an 800-year-old redwood tree in California.
Wow.
That's not the point. The point is that later on when I'm doing the signing and stuff, I have you can put your email, sign up for my newsletter, if you want. You might want to for this reason. First of all, I send a newsletter out every couple of months just to kind of keep you up to date on what things are happening. Everyone always wants to know about The Art of Racing in the Rain, the movie concept, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's information about that. But also, like for instance, we recently sold the Reader's Digest edition translation rights in Slovakian. So if any of you have family in the old country with short attention spans, they too can enjoy The Art of Racing in the Rain. That was for The Art of Racing in the Rain. But the big deal is that I'm trying to do a big push with A Southern Light, my new book, for book clubs. I think it's a good book club book because it's got a lot of history and stuff in it. So we've created a whole separate website for it that has a map of the North Estate, and you hover over different areas and get pop-down menus, and you can learn more about details about spirituality, spiritualism, the history of Northwest timber barons and how the Northwest kind of came into being, about tree climbing, recreational tree climbing, all sorts of different things on this website. But in addition, I want to make a really big push with the paperback because I know a lot of book clubs. I'm in a book club and we don't do anything that isn't paperback. So now it's a good time. So we're creating a book club kit And if you sign up, if you register on my website, and all the news will be in my newsletter in the next couple of weeks. So I'm giving you advance notice, sign up newsletter. And you can go and register your book club, and then we'll send you a book club kit. And it's got all sorts of kind of fun stuff in it to help enhance your book club experience. There's going to be a little recipe booklet in it that has certain recipes that are taken directly from the book, such as Serena's Rosemary Lemonade, Grandpa Samuel's Medicine. If anybody's read A Sudden Light, you would know what Grandpa Samuel's Medicine is. It's 2 parts milk, 1 part Jim Beam. Which just so you know, I've tasted it. It's disgusting, but you can enhance it with certain other liqueurs and ice cubes and so forth, and make it taste really good, like a milkshake that you don't even taste the alcohol until you're blotto. So that would be good for your book club. So it's going to have a recipe booklet in it. It's going to have a CD that has music that was inspired by the book, as well as some other things, temporary tattoos, lapel pins, bookmarks, stuff that you can give to when you're hosting at your house. If ladies or gentlemen come over, you can have fun with this. In addition, as a bonus, if you register on the website, while supplies last, I'm aiming to do 250 of these in the next year. So if we can work out schedule-wise, I will Skype with your book club for 30 minutes, which is kind of cool. You put up your laptop or whatever and then gather around, and then I do it. I have a great time doing the Skypes with book clubs. It's a lot of fun. I like to come in a half hour into the discussion, because that's usually the tipping point. Everyone gets a little tipsy. It's totally cool. Book clubs are best revolved around wine, and so I open a bottle of wine on my side, and I have a glass of wine too. So we can enjoy the evening, and so if you sign up for that, and it works out schedule-wise, as I say, then we can. I'll be happy to Skype with your book club. So check that out. And then my final bit of business is this, my little public service announcement that I make every time I give a talk. My job as a writer isn't just to write books. My job is to get people to read books. And I can't do that without the help of some really wonderful people in your community. And these people are booksellers and librarians. Booksellers and librarians do what they do not to get rich quick. They do it because they have a love for the written word. And they love talking about books. They love putting books into people's hands. So I just want to make sure that we understand what a community really means. Community means that we're all part of the same thing, and we all know we sacrifice certain liberties in order for the greater good and so forth. So I think we need to. I do the one click. Everyone does the one click. We all know the one click. It's part of our society. Okay, that's great. But we shouldn't just rely upon that. We should also make sure that our local bookstores stay in business. We should make sure that our libraries remain vibrant places. These are really important parts of our communities. And since our school teachers right now in Seattle are on strike, I want to put in an extra word for school teachers and add them into that group too. We really need to make sure, this is where literature, I think, is so fundamental to our society. It teaches us empathy. And we need to start teaching kids that at a very early age. And this is where it happens in the schools. So we need to make sure that our school teachers are taken care of. So if we can spend $900 million on a bunch of missiles to go blow up something, I think we can spend some money on our teachers to make sure they can have a living wage and they can be fairly accounted for in this society. So support your schools, support your libraries, and support your local bookstores. There, enough. Now that's enough of the lecture. Sorry. I have a new book out, which I like to talk about, A Sudden Light, but I know that most of you are probably here because of The Art of Racing in the Rain. Am I close? Has anyone read The Art of Racing in the Rain? Yeah, okay. So let me tell you I want to tell you a story. I want to start with a story about The Art of Racing in the Rain, and then I'll talk about A Sudden Light, and then we can do questions and stuff. Because there's a very funny story about how The Art of Racing in the Rain came to be. I grew up in Seattle. I lived in New York for 18 years and then moved back to Seattle with my family in 2001. While I was living in New York, I did a lot of different kinds of jobs, but for most of the time I was making documentary films. And I loved making documentary films. I had a great time doing it. At some point, film came across my desk. A friend of mine gave it to me. It was made by someone he knew in Mongolia. And they were looking for distribution in the US, and they thought maybe I could help. It was a wonderful film called State of Dogs. It was a film made in Mongolia about the idea that among the nomadic people of Mongolia, that the next incarnation for their dog will be as a person. And I watched the film, and it was really wonderful, and I thought, that's a great idea. I wish I could do something with that. But I had no idea what to do with this, with it. Years passed, we moved to Seattle. My wife and I moved back to Seattle with our kids. And then in 2006, I went to see a poetry reading by the poet Billy Collins. Are any of you familiar with Billy Collins? Yeah, he's really a terrific poet and very funny, got a great sense of humor, very dry delivery, very deadpan, presentation. And he looks kind of funny. He looks like a really tall Bob Newhart. Okay, anybody who laughed is officially old. Because your teenagers don't know who Bob Newhart is, I assure you. But he looks like a very funny Bob Newhart. And so he gives this really great, he's giving this reading, and it's a terrific reading that he's doing. And he reads one of his poems, and it's called The Revenant, which means words from the dead. So it's being narrated from the point of view of a dog who's recently been euthanized. So it's being narrated from a dog from heaven. And the first line of the poem is this: I am the dog you put to sleep, as you like to call the needle of oblivion. Come back to tell you this simple thing. I never liked you. See? No, it goes on. It gets worse. Oh, it gets worse. He goes on to exactly what he hates. The jingling of my collar drove me mad, and you never scratched me in the right place, and I hated your friends and your relatives more. And, it goes on and on. But there's a very poignant twist at the end, and it's really quite a sweet poem in the end. And when I was listening to this, I was sitting in this auditorium, and everyone was laughing, and I thought, that's it. That's my story. The idea of a book being narrated by a dog, the idea of a dog being reincarnated as a person is a great idea, but how do you tell the story? It's got to be narrated by the dog. And so thus Enzo was born. This was in the summer of 2006. I had this idea, and I was working on publicizing my second novel, How Evan Broke His Head and Other Secrets, available at all fine independent bookstores. And I was driving around with Evan and going to any bookstore that would have me in the Northwest, and I was doing readings for 2 or 3 or 4 people at a time. It's a very humbling experience. Any of you who are writers out there know when no one really cares and you're driving around with a box of books in your trunk because sometimes the bookstore just doesn't have any of your books. But that's what you do. That's part of the dues you pay and so forth. And so I was spending the whole summer of 2006 driving around, and at some point my wife pulled me aside and she said, you're out there trying to make your relationships with the booksellers and with the librarians and all that. She says, I get that's really important work you're doing, and I understand, and you have to be away from home a lot, and we've got these 2 little kids, and I'm home taking care of the kids while you're out there doing your work. She said, and I know you do these readings every night because I see on the internet, I see your schedule. But what do you do all day? She said, because I think you're going to see the movies. I think she must have found a ticket stub in my pocket, because that's exactly what I was doing. I would go to whatever town in Oregon or Idaho or something, and I'd go in, I'd check into the hotel, and I'd go for a walk or run by the river, because all towns have a river, and then I'd get a light lunch, and then I'd go to the movie theater and see, because my kids at that time were 5 and 7, I guess, and so I'd go see an R-rated movie that to catch up on that kind of stuff, and then I'd go do my reading, and then go to a different town the next day, and it was kind of a cool life.
Busted.
It was nice.